I would like to call the August 17th public meeting concerning proposed 2023 and 2024 budget and the 2023-2024 tax rate and public comments regarding the same to order. It is 8:30 a.m. There is a quorum present. Notice this meeting has been posted in a time and manner required by law. Mr. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Cliff Williams.
Present.
Mr. Scott Carson.
Present.
Mr. Kyle Hagemeyer.
Present.
Ms. Paulette Traylor.
Present.
Ms. Nikita Lagway.
Present.
Our missing members, Mr. Coach Charles Perry, and my name is Chad Jones. Thank you.
This morning, Garrett is going to present the budget and the tax rate, and I'm going to turn it over to him.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Board, Mr. Crow, Ms. Carroll. Like we said, we are here this morning to present the information for the public meeting to the proposed tax budget and tax rate for the 2023-2024 fiscal and tax year. We will first take a look at what components make up the tax rate of Willis ISD. There are two components. The first is maintenance and operations, M&O. Along with state funding, this portion of the tax rate is used to fund the general fund, along with the operations of the district. The second component of the tax rate is the interest and sinking or debt service. This portion of the tax rate is used to pay the annual debt payments associated with voter-approved bond sales. Now we can go ahead and take a look at what the proposed tax rates for the 2023 tax year are. For M&O, the proposed rate is 0.6692. To clarify, this number is dictated to us by the state of Texas, based primarily on property value growth from year to year. This year's rate is based off the most recent legislation passed this summer. The rate of 0.6692 is considered the maximum compressed rate allowable for school district to adopt, and is an 18.44 cent decrease over the prior year. So with recent legislation, when you hear about them spending $22 billion, this is what that is used on as far as compressing this tax rate down. For debt service, when the district passed the last bond election in May of 2022, it did so advertising a 3.1 cent increase to the debt service tax rate for Proposition A. For tax year 2022, we did not utilize or increase the tax rate by 3.1 cents. We instead utilized capitalized interest and INS fund balance to keep the tax rate at 30 cents. That being said, for tax year 2023, based off projections and the current outlook for potential future bonds, it is recommended to increase the debt service rate by the approved 3.1 cents. However, the total tax rate would still see a reduction of 15.44 cents and would be a total tax rate of 1.0002 compared to last year's $1.1546. Per Texas Property Tax Code 26.05, the tax rate must be adopted in two separate components, M&O and INS. Every year we're sent no new revenue requirements from the state and Montgomery County. Because of these requirements, we're required to use very specific motion language to increase the tax rate, despite the fact that we are lowering the tax rate 15.44 cents. This year, that motion states that the tax rate will effectively be raised by 2.54%. Again, this can be slightly misleading because it does not account for state funding and overall how a district is funded. It strictly looks at the tax revenue from year over year. However, I will also add that last year's motion language was over 26% compared to this year's 2.54%. We'll now move forward to the proposed budget for 23-24. The 23-24 budget is based approximately on 3.6% growth in ADA from prior year. It is based on the tax rates we just discussed with a collection rate of 98%. Looking at property values, taking into account the proposed homestead exemption increase of $100,000, so we're already accounting for that. That will go to the voters in November, but as far as the county and the state, we were already building the budget off of those values because that's going to pass. Our taxable values are up from prior of 3.87%, accounting for that increase in the homestead exemption. Taking a quick look at our ADA history, you can see that we've been on a steady growth projection here in Willis ISD. We've grown over 1,150 ADA since the 17-18 school year. I do want to clarify that this is not enrollment, but this is average daily attendance, which is ultimately what we are funded on as a school district. So that's why these numbers are slightly lower than the enrollment numbers that you're used to seeing. The proposed budgets for the 23-24 fiscal year run from September 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2024. And the proposed budgets are for child nutrition, debt service, and the general fund. We'll first take a look at the child nutrition fund, and I first want to start out by looking at the number end of year projections for 22-23 before showing the proposed budget for 23-24. To review, for 22-23, the board adopted a $1.3 million deficit. This was because we surpassed the level of allowable fund balance allowed by the state. As you can see, I am projecting to end the year with about a $750,000 deficit, so we did not hit that $1.3 million number. Now I know what you're thinking, how hard is it just to spend the money? I will say that with any sizable project utilizing these federal funds, we have to go through the proper bid process for each project. It has to be approved by the board, has to be approved by TDA. So doing that, we replaced the majority of the serving lines throughout the district this year. We also upgraded a large amount of equipment, but during the time frame that we had, it was just not enough. We couldn't accomplish much more than we did this year. So that being said, we've still not met that threshold for the allowable fund balance. So looking forward to 23-24, I am still projecting a deficit budget of $400,000. But looking a little more detail, we are proposing a total revenue budget of just over $6 million and a total expenditure budget of $6.4 million for the deficit of $400,000. Michael will continue to outline equipment and projects to be completed this year. And this also includes the pay grade adjustments for all hourly child nutrition employees that was presented and approved at last board meeting. Taking a look at debt service fund, we'll start again by reviewing the end of year projections for current year, 22-23. To remind you that for current year, the board also adopted a deficit budget, and I'm projecting a deficit in current year of $1.5 million. If you remember back a few minutes ago to our tax rate discussion, instead of increasing our tax rate by the 3.1 pennies that were approved by voters, we elected to utilize fund balance for current year, and this $1.5 million deficit is a result of that. So which brings us to current year. So for 23-24, we are projecting a balanced budget of just over $22 million in both revenues and expenditures for debt service, and this is utilizing that tax rate of 0.331. Moving on to the general fund, the district is proposing a balanced budget of $81.37 million in both revenues and expenditures. You will notice that, as with most school districts, the majority of our expenditures are directly instructional related, with the second biggest function being maintenance and operation. Maintenance and operations include utilities, insurance, etc. I'll also add that as a school district, the majority of our expenditures are people, with our payroll budgets making up over 83% of our budgetary total. So of that 81.3 million, 83% of that is directly payroll related. I believe just over 68 million of that is directly payroll related. If we look at these numbers compared to current year, you will notice that the revenue makeup changed with our local revenue decreasing by 6.9 million and our state revenue increasing. This is the result of Senate Bill 2, the tax rate decreasing and being compressed. With our tax rate decreasing, we'll also bring in less local revenue and we'll bring in more state revenue. This is also the reason why I do not believe that recapture is going to be an issue for us moving forward into this year with our local revenue decreasing the way it has. Looking at the expenditures, we have to remember we adopted a deficit budget of just over $3 million for current year. $2.5 million of that was capital projects to finish out the auxiliary fields. and about $577,000 was for school buses. If I were to take those out of the equation, which is this view, it shows a clear picture of the changes from year to year. Again, with over 83.5% of our budget being payroll, the majority of these changes involve the pay grade adjustments being made, as well as the additional staff added over the summer. The increase in function 34, transportation, is for a slight increase in fuel cost, as well as the new software approved during last fiscal year. Function 51 for maintenance was increased for the additional payroll. We made the increase to our custodial, which was the primary adjustment for hourly positions. Utilities increased from prior year, and insurance increased from prior year. Function 71 is a result of GASB 96. I mentioned this last board meeting, which dictates that we account for long-term software contracts under function 71. So this is not necessarily an increase from prior year. It's just moving expenses from one function to another as we account for it differently. Finally, we are not budgeting for any capital projects in the general fund for the 23-24 school year. I'd be happy to answer any questions or any time for public comments.
Thank you, Jared.
No other sign-ups about the budget?
We have two people who've signed up. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board regarding the 2023-2024 budget and 2023-2024 tax rate. Per board policy, the board or administration does not respond during the public comments. Our first person who's signed up is John Sellers.
Thank you, Board and Mr. Crowe. I'll do my best to be brief. Statutorily, by law, one of the two main roles of a Board of Trustees is to set a tax rate and a budget every year. I got to admit that it's a little disheartening to see a presentation like that being offered, yet none of you asked any questions at all. Why? That's one of my main things. You just seem to have taken everything that he said, accepted it in, without any back and forth at all. And I believe that that's something important that we should be seeing, that you as our elected representatives should at least have posed a few questions to Derek when he made his presentation. Look, I get it. I realize that school finance is a very complicated issue. It's something that you really have to take some time to sit down and figure it out. There's a lot of in and outs. You have to consider the ADA, you have to consider the weighted ADA or the WADA. You have to know what the allocation is, and that's part of the problem. I realize that, is that the legislature did not come through to increase that daily allocation. But what I'm seeing most importantly in Willis ISD is that it doesn't look like we're being very strategic with this M&O rate that we have access to. Part of that being $2.5 million last year being spent on capital projects that, if your act would have been together, could have been financed, and it would not have had to come out of the general fund budget. That's $2.5 million that could have gone to teacher payroll. And that's something else that Willis ISD is critically hurting in, is that you have these new graduating teachers looking online to see what Willis ISD's starting payroll is. And when they see that it's among the lowest in Montgomery County, I'm sure that that's hurting our recruiting efforts quite a bit. It's also hurting our ability to retain and keep teachers, quality teachers, the ones we want to have, not the ones that are in and out of a revolving door every single year. So I'd like to make a challenge to you all. I realize it's kind of late to do anything this year, but during the next year, I would really like to try to get you guys together with your CFO and come up with a strategy to see what it will take, regardless of what the legislature does, to get our teachers and our staff in general 6% payroll raise across the board. And I think it's something that can be done. I don't think it will be easy, but I challenge y'all to do that. Our teachers work hard. Almost every other governmental employee in the county is seeing such a raise right about now. I think Willis ISD ought to follow suit, whether or not they get the help from the legislature or not. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. The next speaker is Derek Hibner.
I won't be as dramatic as my mom, but there's going to be some information that comes through. So to the fellow board members, as I look over the budget proposed tax rate that was given to the public, I see many red flags, as if this was all the knowledge that I would have to base my decision on. The person who proposed this budget would be fired. You all ran your campaigns on being transparent, and this is far from it. This is what I see as one of the biggest problems with WISD. We are too fat at the top. We have way too many administrators or assistants or instructional coaches or an athletic director that isn't our football coach. As a local business owner, I understand this all too well. There was a time when oil was over $140 a barrel and we felt like we had the world by our hands. Hiring more and more people, all which didn't do anything to the bottom line. When things got tough and oil went negative, we had massive layoffs. We didn't lay off the backbone of the business, which is our teachers. We fired excessive administrators that were lazy and didn't want to fulfill the roles that needed to be fulfilled. As I sit here and see anyone from the administration building here at these meetings while our students are being taught by virtual teachers, then I question, why are they here and what real purpose do they serve or provide? I look through this budget and see that we are increasing curriculum by 3%. I personally pulled my kids out of this district this year due to the lack of curriculum, because there is none. So if throwing more money at it is your answer, rather than firing the people that are in charge of this area, you are failing our kids. Mr. Crow, you kept reiterating one team, one purpose during your teacher and in-service meetings, but how are we one team if every school is allowed to do their own thing? What is being taught at one school isn't being taught at another, and vice versa. One school is this crap solution tree and the others aren't. We haven't been one since solution tree has been implemented, and I encourage you to continue to throw this crap out. To finish this off, it is a sad day in Willis, Texas, when the starting salary of a teacher in Splendora ISD is starting off with more pay than Willis. I understand you're trying to throw incentives at them, but as John said, when the fresh teacher's coming out of college is looking at options in school districts, incentives don't play into it because they aren't guaranteed. So you say we're having trouble fulfilling these roles, but you're trying to lure them in with nothing provided other than chaos and 40 administrators trying to get you to fill out more paperwork and data instead of teaching our kids, only making the administrators' jobs easier to, again, fail our kids and fail our community. Get rid of the fat up top, get rid of the people out of this building, put teachers back in the classroom, give them a curriculum to actually stand behind and teach these kids, and the community as a whole will benefit from all of it.
Thank you, Mr. Hibner. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Williams.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Traylor. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Let's see here. It is 8:49 p.m. a.m., excuse me. All right, so I would like to call the August 17th, 2023 special board meeting to order. It is 8:49 a.m. There's a quorum present. Notice of this meeting has been posted for a time and manner required by law. Mr. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mr. Cliff Williams.
Present.
Mr. Scott Carson.
Present.
Mr. Kyle Hagemeyer.
Present.
Ms. Paulette Traylor.
Present.
Ms. Nikita Lagway.
Present.
Missing members, Mr. Charles Perry. My name is Chad Jones. Thank you.
Perfect. Being no public comments, the board will now convene into closed session for the purposes considering matters for which closed sessions are authorized by Title V, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code .071 through .084. A, trustees may convene in closed session, discuss the value of and legal issues and options related to the possible sale, lease, or disposition or use of real property. 2, receive legal advice regarding the city's request for the conveyance of a buffer zone easement consisting of 2.7078 acres out of a certain tract or parcel containing 56.53 acres conveyed and recorded under clerk's file 2009-075919 for the official records of Montgomery County, Texas, which the 2.7078 acres of land is part of the F.K. Henderson Survey, Abstract 248, Montgomery County, Texas, Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.072, and 551.129. B, trustees may adjourn into closed session to obtain legal advice regarding the proposed resolution and proposed real estate sales contract with amendments thereto comprising of real estate sales interest for the district for future expansion to support the educational mission of the district. One, fee simple, the real property, surface, minerals, and all improvements thereto, which is described as approximately 60.98 acres, 2,656,463 square feet of land situated in the southeast corner of FM 830 and I-45 out of the F.K. Henderson Survey, Abstract 248, and Francis Cook Survey, Abstract 118, City of Conroe, Texas, together with all improvements, if any thereon, all rights and title and interest of Rube Shammy, seller, in the adjacent roads, alleys, right-of-ways, drainage facilities, easements, and utility facilities as depicted and described as Exhibit A to the real estate contract. And B, easement. The perpetual easement for two tracks, track 1.7804 acres out of the F.K. Henderson Survey, Abstract number 248, City of Conroe, track 2, 1.67 acres out of the F.K. Henderson Survey, Abstract 248, City of Conroe, Montgomery County, Texas, to be used for vehicular and pedestrian access as depicted and described in Exhibit A. Together, the fee simple easement is referred to the property for $9,147,600 plus the cost of the transaction along with development agreement and certain driveway infrastructure and easement tracks up to $660,000. Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.129.
Easy for you.
Man. So we will head to closed session. The board will now reconvene into open session. It is 9:42 a.m. Are there any motions coming out of closed session? Mr. Williams.
I move that we table item A, and then for item B, I move that the board adopt the resolution which includes the approval of the real estate sales contract and all the actions set forth in the resolution and real estate contract as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Williams, second by Mr. Carson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Discussion and possible action items. Item A, consider and possible action to rank the proposals submitted for the 2022 bond project, Willis High School baseball and softball complex improvements for turf renovation project.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, board members, Mr. Crowe, Ms. Rogers. We are gathering this morning to basically rank the softball and baseball turf project vendors that we received. We had a bid opening, I believe, on August 2nd of this month, so about 2 weeks ago. We took the proposals that we received and took them to the committee, which composed itself of Mr. Whitman, Mr. Mate, Ms. Matson, Ms. Ammons, and myself. After we opened those, looked at them, we ranked them. Of the proposals we received from Hellas, RS3, ICI Construction, and Paragon, it is our recommendation that we would proceed with RS3 as the vendor for this project. We are asking your approval today to approve the ranking and the bid that was approved in the amount of $2,340,378. And just for your knowledge, I believe the delta between the lowest and the highest bid was almost $600,000.
Yes, sir.
Move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the recommendation that RS3 be ranked as the top candidate for the construction for the baseball and softball turf project, and that the funds in the amount of $2,340,378 be allocated from 2022 bond funds.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Ms. Traylor. Any further discussion?
I think it's great that it's coming in under what we had originally planned.
Yeah.
It's, that's a significant amount. So,
Totally agree. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item B, discuss and consider approval of construction manager at risk contract with Duratech Inc. for the new middle school number 3 with auxiliary facilities project.
Thank you, sir. The district and our attorney and Duratech have finished negotiations on a contract for them to proceed as the construction manager at risk for the middle school number 3 project, and we are presenting the contract for your approval today.
Yes, sir.
I move the board accept the interim superintendent's recommendations to approve the contract with Duratech Inc. for the new middle school number 3 with auxiliary facilities project.
We have a motion by Ms. Jones, a second by Mr. Carson. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Just, we do want to make sure that we get that spelling correction done.
Yes.
Note that. Okay.
Thank you, Board.
Item C, discuss, consider approval of transfer across funds.
Mr. Monte.
Sir. Good morning again. Thank you, Jamie. Good morning again, Board, Mr. Crowe, Ms. Carroll. I want to take a few minutes to review this, as it's not something we do every single year. But as you are aware, the district has a healthy general fund balance, which is currently sitting around $47.2 million. For current year, in a year that we adopted a deficit, I am currently projecting a $1 to about $1.5 million surplus. This is primarily due to 2 factors. One being interest. We earned $2.7 million in interest in general fund this year. This is, in my opinion, an anomaly. Last year we earned $300,000 all year. Year before that, even less. Building a budget around that dollar amount was difficult as far as going into next year and projecting how much of that is going to be recurring. And we also received $865,000 in NEFA, which is a new instructional facility allotment related to us building Lagway Elementary and Roark pre-K. And so that, with those additional funds this year, along with some open positions and things along those lines, I am projecting to have a surplus for 22-23. That being said, we are again expected to grow what is already a healthy fund balance. That being the case, I want to take a look at our health insurance fund. If we look at our last complete year, which is 21-22, we had $6.2 million in contributions and $6.7 million in expenses, with a deficit of just under $500,000. So we responded and we transferred $500,000, $500,000 to that last year, which essentially made us break even in that fund. So we looked at that again and we responded with increasing the district contribution from $400 per employee per month to $450 per employee per month. We also increased the employee contributions primarily for the HD plan. They hadn't been updated in quite some time, and we updated those accordingly. So that being, as a result of that, we went from $6.2 million in contributions last year to over $7 million in contributions for current year. The hope with that was that would put us back in the black on our health insurance fund, and even with positive surplus moving into this year. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case this year. We had a very large claims year, a very high number of dollar amount claims, and so I am projecting for expenses at the end of the year. We're still waiting on July and August claims to come in, but I'm projecting, based on historical numbers, that we'll land about $7.6 million in expenses for this year, which would again make us a deficit in our health insurance fund. So what we are proposing is to, since we have already have a healthy general fund balance is to transfer $1 million from the general fund to the health insurance fund to strengthen that fund going into next year and after a very large claims year. Also, just a reminder that for the 22-23 numbers and going into 23-24, we did not change the district contribution or the employee contribution. One, the district contribution because we couldn't take that hit budget-wise. Couldn't afford it in this year's budget to increase that number beyond the 450. We didn't want to increase the employee contribution because we didn't want to further reduce take-home pay, specifically in a year where we were not giving the teacher raises. So that being the case, we do feel like it would be wise to further strengthen the health insurance fund after we had such a heavy year. Be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Jones?
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to transfer $1 million from Fund 199 General Fund to Fund 753 Health Insurance Fund.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, a second by Ms. Traylor. Any further questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item D, discuss and consider approval of commitment of fund balance.
Yes, sir. Each year we go through the process of committing fund balance to satisfy local and state recommendations and requirements. For the first rating, it's recommended that we have approximately $20 million in unassigned fund balances, about 3 months worth of operating expenditures. We are recommending to commit $23 million of fund balance to the items listed, which would leave about $24.5 million in unassigned fund balance, is more than recommended by TEA. I'll clarify that this process in no way locks these funds to these projects. If they were needed for any reason, for anything else, it's not an issue. However, this is just a process that we go through every year to fulfill state recommendations. Be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, sir.
Move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation that the board rescind all previous designations and replace them with $23 million in commitments as listed on the following page.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, second by Ms. Lagway. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item E, consider and accept certificate of debt service collection rate for 2023-2024 fiscal year and excess collections for 2022 debt service.
Thank you, sir. This one is relatively straightforward. Truth and taxation laws require that we accept and certify the debt collection rate. Attached is the 23-24 debt collection rate verified by Montgomery County tax assessor collector Tammy McRae. As you will see, our anticipated collection rate for tax year 2023 is 99.88%. The motion language also refers to excess collections. Due to the collection rate being slightly less than prior year, the excess collections for this year is $0. So we are requesting approval for the collection rate issued by Montgomery County.
Ms. Traylor?
I move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to accept certification of the debt service collection rate and excess collections as indicated in the letter from the Montgomery County Tax Assessor Collector.
We have a motion by Ms. Traylor, a second by Mr. Parson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? 6-0, motion passes. Item F, discuss and consider approval of 2023-2024 general fund debt service child nutrition budget.
Yes, sir. I'm always amazed at how I spend 3-4 months building, presenting, refining these budgets, and then it all comes down to one simple action item. But as presented, we are asking for your approval for the adoption of the balanced general fund budget in the amount of $81.3 million, the balanced debt service fund and budget in the amount of $22 million, and the child nutrition fund budget with revenues of $6.08 million and expenditures of $6.48 million, for a final deficit of $400,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we reviewed all these numbers earlier. Be happy to answer any questions or explain anything else in detail.
Yes, sir.
Move that we accept the superintendent's recommendation to adopt the 2023-2024 proposed budgets for the general fund, debt service fund, and the child nutrition fund as presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Carson, a second by Ms. Lagway. Is there any further discussion?
I just want to say I think you did a great job. I mean, I know it's not easy, and We recognize that you put a lot of time and effort into this, and thank you for what you do.
No further discussion. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item G, consider an adoption of 2023 ad valorem tax for maintenance and operations.
Sure. As presented, the district is requesting adoption for the 2023 maintenance and operation tax rate of .6692 per $100 valuation. As previously discussed, this rate of .6692 is considered the maximum compressed rate allowable for school district to adopt and is an 18.44 cent decrease over prior year.
Yes, sir.
Move that we adopt the 2023 ad valorem tax rate for maintenance and operations of .6692 per $100 valuation.
We have a motion by Mr. Williams, a second by Ms. Traylor. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Item H, discuss and consider adoption of 2023 ad valorem tax rate and debt service and the 2023 total ad valorem tax rate.
Yes, sir. As previously presented, the district is requesting adoption for the debt service tax rate of .3310 per $100 valuation and a total tax rate of 1.0002 per $100 valuation. This total is a 15.44 cent decrease over prior year. I'd be happy to answer any further questions.
Mr. Carson.
I move that we adopt the 2023 ad valorem tax rate for debt service of .3310 per $100 valuation. I further move that the total property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 1.0002 per $100 valuation, which is effectively a 2.54% increase in the tax rate.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Okay, so just for my small audience today, our state government is tying our hands behind our back and our feet together and asking us to run. So when you talk to your state representatives and your senators, tell them that public education should be at the forefront. If not, every penny that they get in their pocket is gonna go to somebody else because we're not providing them with the education. So, just saying that. Because we've lowered it from, I don't know what the number was, 1.39 down to 1.000. I mean, we've gotta bring in money to be able to pay for teachers, to pay for all these things. And so, our state government, while they're celebrating and saying, hey, we're lowering your property taxes, they're doing it at the expense of the public school system.
Yep.
It is what it is. And so, just make sure you get in their ear. Any further discussion? All those,
Yeah, real quick. Gary, you did an outstanding job under the bonds. Us making $6.2 million, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
$6.2 million off of your insight. I want to tell you it's an outstanding job. Also, I would love to talk to people here earlier. We have given with the stipends that we gave over 2.5% raise. And the county itself has only gave a 2.5% raise this last year. We exceeded that. We're hoping the legislature is going to come at us with some more money because everybody will get another bump then. We're all sitting here waiting. So
Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate the job you do for us very much.
Sure. Thank you.
I'd like to just make a comment. I've been doing this for a day or two over the years, about 45 years, and I made it to every school yesterday. And it was if not the smoothest, one of the smoothest openings that I've ever been involved with. There are little glitches. That's going to happen. We've got almost 9,000 kids, but there were no significant glitches. And I went to the high school expecting to find kids out in the hallways and searching for their schedules. There wasn't anybody in the hallways. They were already all in class. I went to the middle schools, same thing. The elementaries I got to a little later, but all the kids seemed to be happy and in class. And so I congratulate our principals and their staffs, and they obviously educated the parents as well on what needed to happen. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the central office staff because I went to several schools that commented, we've seen every central office administrator here today. And they appreciate that, so I appreciate y'all doing that, because that makes a difference for the kids. And let's just keep this positive vibe going in the district, because it's headed that way right now.
One team.
On purpose.
All right.
Okay, so being no further discussion, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Board member comments?
Great job, Kyle.
I'll say something.
Yeah.
Hey, just wanna say to all of our staff, just know you're appreciated. You can have your haters anywhere, but just know that all of y'all are appreciated. It rolls all the way down to the classroom, to everybody here. And, we appreciate everything that y'all do. Keep doing the great work. As Chad said, and what this board, we're committed, we're continuing to fight for y'all. And hopefully when the legislature gets off the rears, and hopefully we can take care of y'all a little bit more, and we're going, it's a great start of the school year. We appreciate y'all being here to enable to go back to all your people and inform them of what is happening here, while they are educating our kids. So you are appreciated. Just know that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. It is 10:01 a.m.